just get rid of the civil. Just say they're not under the civil service system. If it's not going to do what it was supposed to do, just get rid of it, so we can fire them. But actually, what I think we should do is repeal the 16th Amendment and get rid of the IRS. I do not believe this agency can be saved. I think it is corrupt to the core. And I have heard so many stories. The thing that has been the most depressing to me in all of this are the stories that I hear from people from all over the country, the things that people have written to me and said, this happened to me, they did this to me, they did this to my family, they did this to my business. And you know what? I know they're true. I know it's all true. And no matter how much Congress has said they're going to protect the citizens from the IRS, it isn't happening. So it's a bully of an agency, and it's used as it's become a political weapon in the hands of the Democratic Party. They've become the enforcement arm of the Democratic Party. So I filled out in fall of 2009, October 2009, I filed an application for C4 status for a group that wanted to form to fight Obamacare. You want to think back? Obamacare. And I will always believe, let me tell you something, I will always believe that one of the reasons that this whole thing happened was because suddenly there are all these organizations arising out of, angst among American citizens to fight Obamacare. Because if you think about what was happening in the late fall of 2009 and early 2010, that's what people were talking about, that's what they were concerned about. And so I applied for C4 status for a group October 2009, plain vanilla, lobbying, and never did any political activity. They cashed their check because you pay money to apply for the IRS to review your application. Didn't hear anything from the IRS. November, December, January, February. Not until June of 2010 did I hear from the IRS about this organization and its application. And when I heard from the IRS, it was not from Cincinnati, which is where all the tax-exempt applications supposedly go. It was from the Washington, D.C. office. And what did they want? They wanted something I'd never been asked for before. Before, if I'd ever had any follow-up questions, it would be, you only have one board member, or what are the qualifications of your board members, or your articles of incorporation don't say what they're supposed to say. Or anyway, it would always be about something that was in the application published by the IRS and posted on its website, and some part of that. This organization was asked to provide all of the ads that it had run against Obamacare. And that wasn't an easy thing to do because the guy from the IRS kept telling me that, well, I can't remember if we had to do a thumb drive or we couldn't. I think we could not give them a thumb drive. I had to go find, that was not an easy thing to do. I had to go find the media producer. They literally did raise money, and then they ran ads in different congressional districts saying, so-and-so, here's one bad thing about Obamacare, call Representative so-and-so. It was classic lobbying, grassroots lobbying. It was not political. There was no political activity by this organization. So that was really an odd thing to me. Fast forward with that organization, I will tell you, I didn't hear from them after I submitted that the following June. So now we're in 2011. I write a letter saying, here's the timeline. Here's all this organization has done. I'm beginning to think the only reason you haven't processed and granted this application is because of their fight against government takeover of our healthcare system. I think that you are making a political decision. And if you're going to deny it, just go ahead and deny it, and we'll start the necessary appeals. Well, the next day, I have 3 IRS agents from Washington all on the phone calling me saying, oh, no. And this went on for years. They finally got their C4 status in July of 2013. Something that should have taken 3 weeks maximum.
When you watch the IRS hearings, often, Republicans come on and they will grill the witnesses, but Democrats like Cummings and Cartwright specifically have said things like that the Republicans are holding hearings for political theater. What is your response to someone that thinks that way?
Well, I think the Democrats have been just dreadful in these hearings, and to me, I don't understand why. I think you ought to be able to make a case to the American people, if anybody would actually make the case, that, do you want these members of Congress who are siding with the bureaucrats, or do you want members of Congress who are trying to find out from what's the bureaucracy been doing and siding with the American people? But I did make a comment when I was testifying in February that actually, this was kind of a funny exchange. So Cartwright, they don't ask questions substantively, and they don't want to know the facts, and they have their little talking points, and they come in and they say their stuff, and then they leave. But and they've done everything they can to try to derail the investigations. And we now know that the Department of Justice and the IRS are both working with the Democrats on the committees to try to undermine the investigations. We know that. Democrats on the Hill, like Carl Levin in the Senate, Sheldon Whitehouse, others, Chuck Schumer, there's a whole range of these guys who were constantly beating on the IRS saying, why don't you do something to try to silence these groups. Sheldon Whitehouse sent a letter to the Justice Department, had a hearing in which he had the Justice Department, Office of Public Integrity, come and testify, and he was beating on them saying, why don't you prosecute these organizations, because they are not supposed to be engaged in political activity, which is not true, and why don't you prosecute them?